It happened on an airplane. I was returning home from a long flight, and I decided to watch a movie. I hadn't seen it, had only the vaguest sense of what the movie was about. It wasn't long before the floodgates opened, and I mean opened wide. I tried to not cry, but only ended up gasping. And I'm sure the guy next to me thought I was having a nervous breakdown. We cry for lots of reasons, all legitimate, all good, I trust that. But why do we cry at movies? We know up here that the story we're watching is usually fictional, and the actors are paid to play on our emotions, but still, sometimes we can't help it. I can understand crying when we're sad or hurt or even angry or scared, and when emotions get intense. But at the movies? It's normal to think when we see emotions like that played out in front of us. It's normal to think and become empathetic in response to those things. In other words, feel something of what they are portraying or feeling. We do usually shed tears in times like that. But as we get older, we cry not just over sad things. We begin to cry when the opposite happens. When something sweet or kind or tender or joyful or innocent or beautiful surprises us. That's on the screen or in life, it seems to me to be true. We cry when a rough, distant father shows signs to his children of his own vulnerability. We cry when a child said something so sweet and so innocent. We cry when lovers quarreling make up and forgive. We cry when someone is so tender with someone else. It's a particular grace. It's a particular loveliness, actually, that can for a moment feel heartbreaking, literally breaking open our hearts. But it can be embarrassing. I think that's why so many of us guys, perhaps one of the reasons so many of us guys have dismissed chick flicks. The reason we send our wives and girlfriends and female friends off to the chick flick with their female friends is because, I really believe deep down, we don't want them to see us crying. And I can remember growing up as a teenager, looking over to my mom at the movies and seeing tears rolling down her down her cheeks, and turning to her and saying, "Mom," and then teasing her for this display of emotion, only because if I didn't start teasing her, I would start crying. We get choked up. You've seen me get choked up saying Mass. You've seen me get choked up preaching. And I can honestly say it has so much to do with seeing, thinking, hearing something beautiful. And it chokes me up, but that's embarrassing to me. It's not always easy. I'm getting kind of used to it. But it's still embarrassing, first of all, because I got to get on with the Mass, or else we'd still be here from last Sunday. One of you gave me a great tip one time that when I start crying, he said, just step on your toe with the other foot and press. And the harder you press, the more likely it is you'll be able to get on with the Mass. We cry over what is so lovely on the screen, which draws our attention to things we really want. But we find so hard to get at. Reconciliation, things like forgiveness, a chance to say we're sorry, a chance to say we're sorry before it's too late, a chance to say goodbye before it's too late, something tender, an end to the fighting. We cry at a brief vision of a saving grace from which we are exiled most of the time. We ache, as we get older, I think this is especially true, but we ache for the lost innocence of the world. loveliness and goodness can make the ugliness of the world all the more vivid. And against that background of pain, that the beautiful scenes in film or in life become so deeply moving. Moments we find it so difficult to get at certain times of our lives. We ache for the lost loveliness of the world. Our tears are telling us something. Our tears are telling us something key, that our lives are tougher than when we were little, that there's something here on that screen or in our lives of our longing for uncomplicated goodness, a goodness that makes us all the more intense in our emotional responses to it. Our tears are telling us something. Our tears are telling us something even more than that, I believe. I think our tears are telling us that this, what we are witnessing here, is the best of us, the absolute best of us. That we're seeing something on that screen or in our lives that is deeply and profoundly human at its best. A moment that resonates so deeply, that touches us, something in us, that stirs something deep in us again and takes us by surprise. And so I'm moved by what I see or hear or experience. I'm moved at the core of my being. It is human behavior that is elegant and holy and beautiful that I'm witnessing. What I'm seeing in this person, between these two people, or in the community portrayed, is just so beautiful that it inspires me. That's why I cry at the movies. And watching the news the other night, I saw Lester Holt tear up at the good news story they ended the newscast with. And I figure if Lester Holt can cry over beautiful, so can I. It's just those kind of moments, my friends, that are all together, in our altogether human lives, that Jesus is describing in the gospel you just heard proclaimed that we call the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes are just so beautiful that it's not just elegant writing, and it is elegant writing, but it's more than that. It's eloquent moments in our human lives. These are elegant moments we are witnessing, we are hearing about in this gospel. And I suspect this is the stuff that touched Jesus too. This is the stuff he saw happening around him that had an impact on him, that stirred him, that perhaps even made him cry. It is when we see someone, the poor in spirit, for example, who is just so humble, when they don't have necessarily a reason to be other than their love and care for the people in that moment in their lives. When we see true, genuine humility in a person, especially in the powerful, it's when we see people mourn, when we see people who are truly letting go, trying their best to get their grip off of that they held on to, that lifestyle, that moment, that person, that position, whatever it is, just when you see them unprying their hands from that, the courage in their letting go. And when we see people open to being wrong, the meek, when we see people open to being wrong and open to learning more and open to changing their mind, especially against the backdrop of a world that seems like it's so hard for us to change our mind. It's so beautiful. And when we see people who hunger and thirst for justice, who desire with every fiber of their being, and are courageously working for a more just and kind world, when we see people hanging in there with that, no matter their disappointment, it lifts us up. It touches something in us. And the same with forgiveness. When we see people forgive each other and treat somebody well, even after they've been betrayed and mistreated themselves, it touches something. When we see motives out there in others that are so pure, so so uncompromisingly pure. That innocence in somebody, I just can't tell you how much that touches me when I run across it. I can hear somebody in confession telling me their worst sins, and when I see their pure desire to fix their life, to turn it around, to make the hard choices now, I probably cry more as a confessor than I do as a confessee. It's so beautiful. And when I see people who have every reason to divide and conquer, to get ahead, and instead choose to make themselves a little less, to bring people together, when I see that happen, I'll never forget standing in South Africa in the prisons, next to the prison cell of Nelson Mandela, and hearing his story. And I mean, I could tear up just remembering the moment. When you see once upon a time enemies forgiving, and when people who treat others poorly call them names, betray their trust, and they keep doing what they were doing because they know it's right, when they're not getting any affirmation back that this is the course. These are the Beatitudes I'm talking about. These are moments in human life that are elegant and beautiful, and they do something to us if we're paying attention. If we're paying attention. What we're seeing is courage. What we're seeing is freedom. What we're seeing is human beings growing. That's powerful stuff. And that's when you and I are also at our most beautiful. That is us at our best. That's us at the best of our human nature. Seeing that, I am stirred to the core. Seeing that in film or in person is when tears well up in me. Seriously, what makes me so proud to be human, what moves me to tears the most, is the beauty and the elegance of human behavior that is self-sacrificing and humble and brave and generous with people's energies and homes or money, whatever it is, when they give with no strings attached, just for another person's sake. You've seen me announce sometimes the generosity of this community that helps us do our mission, and I can't hardly say it oftentimes without getting choked up, because that kind of generosity just is amazing to me. It just gets me. And it's just so right to see people at these moments. It's so deeply true, it's honest, it is elegant beyond words. Studies confirm that seeing that in another person, being touched by that, makes us kinder and more generous afterwards. Why would I not want to fill my life with people who live that way? Why would I not want to surround myself with a community of people who are trying their best to live those ways in this world, those beatitude lives around me? People whose beautiful choices move me to tears. Why would I not want to live my life like that? Why would I not want to live a life that in its finer moments touches others that way? Why would I not be hell-bent to live a life of beatitude so that in moments along the way that would be my courage, my freedom, my generosity to others, that would actually make somebody so stirred around me that they would tear up, and then they would make choices that are kinder and more beautiful and more elegant in the world, so that I can inspire others who will in turn be kind and generous because they've seen it in me. Why would I not want to live this way? Why would I not want to surround myself with good people like that? Putnam did an amazing, huge study about people who are most generous and kind in the world. And what he kept coming back to, not necessarily a religious person himself, what he kept coming back to is the people who go to church are the kindest and most generous people in this country. And when he did further studies to figure out why, was it their faith, what was it? And I've shared this with you before in another year, but what he came down to is because people who go to church are usually around people who are trying to be good. and therefore they become gooder, kinder, more generous. So I'm telling you, if you find that little bit of a salty discharge someday emanating from the side of your eyes at any point in watching a movie or watching someone make powerful choices in their lives, I'm telling you, enjoy your tears and know that you too are capable of living that way, especially against the background of so much in life that is just so tough and so brutal sometimes, that you too are capable of living that way. And the rest of us will be the better for it.